The waitress grabbed the biker's arm before he could sit down. Her voice dropped to a whisper that shook with urgency. "That man over there, he's been staring at your daughter the entire time you were gone." He walked up to her table. "Something's wrong." The Hells Angel's eyes went cold. His jaw tightened. He didn't yell. He didn't ask questions. He turned, found the man still watching his 12-year-old daughter, and what happened next made everyone in that diner hold their breath. Before we continue, subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the very end. Comment your city and country below. Let's see how far this story travels. Megan Torres had been watching the man for 23 minutes. She didn't know why she'd started counting. Maybe it was the way he sat too still, too patient, like someone waiting for something specific to happen. Maybe it was the way his coffee had gone cold 10 minutes ago, but he hadn't asked for a refill. Or maybe it was the way his eyes kept drifting to the same spot over and over again, like a compass needle finding north. The booth by the window, the little girl with the chocolate milkshake, the father in leather sitting across from her. Megan wiped down the counter and told herself she was imagining things. "Order up," Danny called from the kitchen. She grabbed the plates bacon and eggs for table 6 pancakes for the elderly couple near the door and forced herself to focus. Rusty's roadside diner wasn't the kind of place where bad things happened. It was the kind of place where truckers stopped for coffee at 3 a.m. and old men argued about football scores and single mothers brought their kids for Saturday lunch because the milkshakes were cheap and the booths were comfortable. It was safe. It was supposed to be safe. She delivered the food, smiled at the right moments, and let her eyes slide back to the man near the back wall. He hadn't moved. His gaze hadn't shifted. "You okay, hon?" Megan startled. Dolores, the other waitress on shift, was watching her with raised eyebrows and a pot of decaf in her hand. "Fine," Megan said. "Just tired." "You've been staring at that booth for 5 minutes." "I wasn't." "The creepy guy," Dolores lowered her voice. "Yeah, I noticed him too. Something off about that one." Megan's stomach tightened. "You think I've been doing this job for 31 years? You learn to spot the ones who don't belong." Dolores glanced toward the back wall, then away just as quickly. "He ordered a burger and fries 20 minutes ago. Hasn't touched a single bite, just sits there, watching." "Watching what?" Dolores didn't answer. She didn't have to. They both knew. The little girl in the booth by the window couldn't have been more than 12. Brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. Purple t-shirt with some cartoon character Megan didn't recognize. She was talking to her father, animated hands moving the way kids do when they're telling a story that matters to them. Her father listened. Really listened the way parents should, but often don't. He was a big man, broad shoulders, arms covered in tattoos that disappeared under the sleeves of his leather vest. The vest carried patches Megan recognized from news stories and movies' Hells Angels Oklahoma chapter. 6 months ago, Megan might have been nervous about him. Now she was nervous about the man watching his daughter. "Should we say something?" Megan asked. Dolores shrugged. "Say what? Excuse me, sir, but you're looking at that child too much. He'll deny it, say we're crazy, maybe make a complaint to management." "So we just, what, do nothing?" "I didn't say that." Dolores set down the coffee pot. "I said we can't confront him directly, but if the father knew..." She let the sentence hang. Megan understood. The biker stood up from his booth, said something to his daughter, and headed toward the restroom. The girl nodded, still smiling, and went back to her milkshake. The man near the back wall sat up straighter. Megan watched his eyes track the father's movement. Watched him wait until the restroom door closed. Watched him stand up, smooth down his jacket, and start walking toward the booth by the window. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Oh, God," Dolores whispered. "He's going over there." The man moved slowly, deliberately, like someone who had done this before. Like someone who knew exactly how much time he had before the father returned. He stopped a few feet from the booth and just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching the girl with an expression that made Megan's skin crawl. The girl looked up. Megan saw it happen the moment recognition flickered across her face. The moment she realized a stranger was standing too close. The moment fear replaced curiosity, and her shoulders pulled inward. Her head dropped, her whole body trying to become smaller. The girl didn't scream, didn't call for help. She just sat there frozen the way prey freezes when a predator gets too close. Megan's feet were moving before she made the conscious decision to act. She crossed the diner floor, heart pounding, and positioned herself near the booth. The man glanced at her, annoyed, dismissive, then turned his attention back to the girl. "Excuse me," Megan said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Is there something I can help you with?" The man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Just admiring the view." "There's no view from here, just a parking lot." "I wasn't talking about the parking lot." Megan's blood went cold. The girl Emma she'd heard the father call her was staring at the table. Her hands were clenched around her phone. Her knuckles had gone white. "I think you should go back to your table," Megan said. "I think you should mind your own business." "This is my business. This is my section." The man leaned closer. Close enough that Megan could smell his cologne, something expensive that didn't match the rest of him. "And what exactly are you going to do about it?" Before Megan could answer, the restroom door opened. The father walked out, wiping his hands on his jeans, oblivious. He was halfway across the diner before Megan intercepted him, stepping into his path with her heart in her throat and her hands shaking at her sides. "Sir." He stopped, looked down at her. "Yeah." Megan leaned close. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "That man over there, he's been staring at your daughter the entire time you were gone." He walked up to her table. "Something's wrong." The biker's expression didn't change. For a moment, Megan thought he hadn't heard her. Thought maybe she'd spoken too quietly, or he didn't understand, or he simply didn't care. Then his eyes shifted. Found the man still standing near the booth. Found his daughter hunched and small, refusing to look up. Something changed in his face. Something dark and dangerous and absolute. "Thank you," he said quietly. He walked to the booth. Didn't run, didn't rush. Just walked each step measured and deliberate, like a man who knew exactly what he was about to do and wanted to make sure everyone in the room had time to witness it. The man near the booth saw him coming. His smile flickered uncertain for the first time. The biker stopped 3 feet away. His voice was low, controlled, but there was steel underneath every word. "Why are you standing next to my daughter?" The man Victor, his credit card would later reveal, took a step back. I asked you a question." "Look, man, I don't want any trouble." "Then you picked a strange way to show it." The biker moved closer, closing the distance Victor had tried to create. "My daughter is 12 years old. What business does a grown man have standing over a 12-year-old girl he doesn't know?" Victor's face flushed. "I wasn't doing anything wrong. Looking isn't illegal." "Looking at what? Nothing. I was just..." "Looking at what?" The question came out harder this time, sharper, the kind of voice that didn't ask twice. Victor's composure cracked. "You can't just interrogate me. I have rights." "So does she." The biker nodded toward Emma, who was watching now, tears building in her eyes. "She has the right to eat a milkshake with her father without some creep making her feel unsafe. She has the right to exist in public without grown men invading her space. She has the right to be a kid. He stepped forward again. Victor stepped back. And I have the right to protect my daughter from anyone who threatens that. I didn't threaten anyone. Your presence was the threat. Victor's back hit the edge of a table. He was running out of room, running out of words, running out of everything except the fear that was finally showing in his eyes. I'm going to leave now, Victor said, trying to sound calm and failing. I'm going to walk out of here, and we're going to forget this happened. No. No. The biker placed one hand on Victor's chest. Not a push, not yet just pressure, just enough to make clear who was in control of this conversation. You're going to leave. You're going to forget this diner exists. You're going to forget my daughter's face. And if I ever see you again anywhere ever, we're going to have a very different conversation. Victor tried to pull away. The hand on his chest tightened. Do you understand me? Yes. Say it louder. Yes. I understand. And the biker held him there for one more second. 2, 3. Then he stepped back and pointed toward the door. Go. Victor went. He didn't walk. He ran. His shoes slapped against the floor. His hands fumbled with the door handle, and then he was gone out into the parking lot, into his car tires, squealing as he pulled out of the lot and disappeared down the highway. The diner went quiet. Every eye was on the biker. Some curious, some afraid, some like Megan relieved in a way that made her knees feel weak. The biker turned back to the booth. His daughter was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. He slid into the seat across from her and reached across the table to take her hands. Emma, look at me. She did. Her eyes were red glassy, full of the kind of fear children shouldn't have to carry. He's gone, her father said softly. He's never coming back. You're safe. I didn't say anything, Emma whispered. I should have said something. I should have called for you. But I froze. I couldn't move. That's not your fault. But, Emma, his voice was gentle now, stripped of all the steel. You did nothing wrong. He did. He chose to walk over here. He chose to make you uncomfortable. None of that is on you. I was so scared, Dad. I know, baby, I know. He stood up, walked around the table, and pulled her into a hug. She buried her face against his chest and sobbed deep, shaking sobs that seemed to release everything she'd been holding in. Megan watched from the counter, hands trembling, heart still racing. She'd done the right thing. She knew she had. But the image of that man standing over Emma watching her like she was something to be claimed, it wouldn't leave her mind. Eventually the biker released his daughter, kissed the top of her head, and walked toward the register. Megan met him there, unsure what to say. Thank you, he said, for telling me. I couldn't. Megan stopped, swallowed hard. I couldn't just watch it happen. Most people would have. I'm not most people. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, respect. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. White, plain, just a phone number, nothing else. He set it on the counter between them. If he ever comes back, he said, call me. Megan looked at the card. I don't even know your name. Jake Morgan. Megan Torres. Jake nodded. You did a brave thing today, Megan Torres. Most people don't get involved. Most people look the other way and tell themselves it's not their problem. It was my problem. The moment he walked into my diner, it became my problem. It's not your diner. It is when I'm working. For the first time, Jake almost smiled. Almost. If that man comes back, he said again, day or night, rain or shine, you call that number. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't try to handle it yourself. Megan's fingers closed around the card. Why? Why would you do that for a stranger? Jake glanced back at Emma, who was wiping her eyes with a napkin, trying to compose herself, trying to be brave. Because you weren't a stranger to my daughter, he said quietly. Not today. Today, you were the only person in this room who saw what was happening and chose to act. That makes you family. He paid the bill cash, plus a tip that made Megan blink, and walked back to Emma. Together they gathered their things and headed for the door. At the threshold, Emma stopped. She turned and looked at Megan, eyes still red but steadier now. Thank you, she said. Her voice was small but sincere, for seeing me. Megan's throat tightened. Always. Emma nodded once, then followed her father out into the afternoon sun. Megan stood at the counter card in hand and watched them go. Jake's motorcycle roared to life in the parking lot. Emma climbed on behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and held on tight. They pulled out onto the highway and disappeared. Dolores appeared at Megan's shoulder. What was that about? Megan looked at the card in her hand, looked at the empty booth by the window, looked at the spot where Victor had stood close enough to touch a child he had no right to approach. I don't know, she said, but I think everything just changed. She tucked the card into her pocket and went back to work. But she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Victor Crane had left the diner, but he hadn't left her mind. The way he'd looked at Emma, the way he'd smiled when Megan confronted him, the way he'd said, I wasn't talking about the parking lot. Men like that didn't just give up. Men like that came back. That night, Megan went home to the apartment she shared with her 16-year-old sister, Lily. One bedroom, a couch that doubled as Megan's bed, thin walls, and unreliable heating. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Lily was at the kitchen table, hunched over a textbook, headphones on. She looked up when Megan walked in. You're late? Double shift. You look weird. Megan set down her bag. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're doing that thing where you pretend to be fine when you're actually freaking out. Sometimes Megan forgot how observant her sister was, how growing up too fast had taught her to read danger before she learned algebra. Something happened at work, Megan admitted. A man was there, was a little girl, and he was creeping on her. Megan nodded. Lily's expression hardened. What did you do? I told her father. Good. Lily pulled out one earbud. What did he do? Made the guy leave? Made sure his daughter was okay. Megan pulled the card from her pocket. Then he gave me this. Lily took the card, turned it over. Just a phone number. He said if the guy ever comes back, I should call. Who is he? A biker. Hell's Angel. Lily's eyebrows rose. Seriously, he was. Megan struggled to find the words. He was terrifying, Lily. I mean, genuinely scary. The kind of man you cross the street to avoid. But the way he looked at his daughter, the way he held her when she cried. He sounds like a good dad. He is. Megan took the card back, stared at the number. He called me family. Family. Because I spoke up. Because I didn't look away. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Are you going to keep it? Megan thought about throwing it away. Thought about telling herself this was a one-time thing, a random encounter that would never matter again. But she also thought about Victor's face when Jake confronted him. The fear, yes, but underneath that's something else. Something patient. Something that said this isn't over. Yeah, Megan said. I'm going to keep it. She put the card in the drawer beside the couch where she'd see it every night before she went to sleep. Just in case. just in case. 6 days later, Victor Crane walked back into Rusty's diner. And this time, he wasn't watching Emma. He was watching Megan. He sat at the same table. Megan's hands went cold the moment she saw him. Same jacket, same posture, same patient, predatory stillness. But this time his eyes weren't fixed on the booth by the window. They were fixed on her. "Megan." Dolores grabbed her arm from behind. "That's him. That's the guy from last week." "I know." "What's he doing here?" "I don't know." Victor Crane smiled at her from across the diner. Slow, deliberate, the kind of smile that said, "I remember you." Megan's throat tightened. She forced herself to breathe, forced herself to think. Jake's card was at home, tucked in the drawer beside her couch. She hadn't brought it today, hadn't thought she'd need it. Stupid. So stupid. "Should I call the manager?" Dolores whispered. "And tell him what? That a customer is sitting quietly at a table. He's not just sitting. He's watching you. That's not illegal. It should be." Victor raised his hand, a casual gesture that demanded attention. Megan's stomach lurched. "He wants service," Dolores said. "I can see that. You don't have to go over there. I can take his table." Megan shook her head. If she showed fear now, he would know he had power over her. Men like Victor fed on fear. They used it. They weaponized it. "I'll handle it." She grabbed the coffee pot, crossed the floor, on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else, and stopped at his table. Her voice came out flat, professional. "Can I help you?" Victor leaned back in his chair, studying her the way a collector studies something he's considering acquiring. "Coffee. Black." Megan poured. Her hand didn't shake. She was proud of that. "Anything else?" "Actually, yes." Victor's smile widened. "An apology would be nice." "Excuse me, you embarrassed me last week. Made me look like some kind of criminal in front of everyone. I think the least you could do is say you're sorry." Megan set down the coffee pot. "I'm not going to apologize for protecting a child." "Protecting?" Victor laughed, a sound that scraped against her nerves. "From what, I wasn't doing anything. I was standing in a public place looking at nothing in particular, and you decided to make it into something it wasn't. You were standing over a 12-year-old girl. I was waiting for the restroom. The restroom is on the other side of the diner." Victor's expression flickered. Just for a second, the mask slipped, and Megan saw what was underneath. Not embarrassment, not shame. Anger. Cold, calculating anger. "You think you're clever," he said quietly. "You think you did something heroic. But all you did was humiliate me in front of a room full of strangers and sick some thug on me like I was a dog that needed to be put down." He wasn't a thug. He was her father. He was a criminal. Did you see those patches, Hell's Angels? Those people are murderers, drug dealers, the scum of the earth, and you sided with him over me. Megan's jaw tightened. I sided with a scared little girl who was being watched by a grown man she didn't know. I wasn't watching her. Yes, you were. Prove it. The word hung in the air between them. Prove it. Because that was the thing about men like Victor. They knew how to stay just inside the lines. They knew how to make themselves look innocent. They knew how to twist every accusation back onto the accuser. "Drink your coffee," Megan said. "Then leave." She turned to go. Victor's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Megan froze. His grip was tight. Too tight. Not enough to bruise, not enough to leave marks, but enough to communicate exactly who was in control. "I wasn't finished talking," he said. "Let go of me." "When I'm ready." "Let go of me now." Victor's thumb pressed into the soft flesh of her inner wrist. A pressure point. painful without being visible. "I know where you work," he said softly. "I know what time your shifts end. I know you take the bus home because you can't afford a car. I know you live in that rundown apartment complex on Fletcher Street. 3rd floor, unit 307. Megan's blood turned to ice. "I know you have a sister," Victor continued. "Pretty girl. 16, right, Lily, I think her name is." Don't what I'm just making conversation. "If you touch her, touch her." Victor's eyes widened in mock innocence. "Why would I touch her? I'm not a monster, Megan. I'm just a man who doesn't like being embarrassed, who doesn't like being humiliated by waitresses who think they're better than everyone else." He released her wrist. Megan stumbled back, heart hammering, mind racing. "I'll be around," Victor said casually. "Maybe I'll stop by tomorrow. Maybe next week. Maybe I'll just show up when you least expect it. You'll never know when. You'll never know where. But every time you feel safe, every time you think maybe it's over, I'll be there, watching." He picked up his coffee cup, took a slow sip, and smiled. "Have a nice day." Megan walked away on legs that threatened to collapse. She made it to the break room, slammed the door behind her, and pressed her back against the wall. Her wrist throbbed where he'd grabbed her. Her mind replayed his words. Lily. Fletcher Street. Unit 307. He knew. He knew where she lived. He knew about her sister. This wasn't about Emma anymore. This was about her. Megan pulled out her phone. Her fingers trembled so badly she could barely navigate to her contacts. She didn't have Jake's number saved. She'd never thought to memorize it, but she knew where the card was. At home. In the drawer. Useless. The break room door opened. Dolores stepped in, face pale with concern. "What happened?" "What did he say?" "He knows where I live." Megan's voice cracked. "He knows about Lily." "Oh my God. He's been following me, watching me. He knows my schedule, my bus route, everything." Dolores grabbed her shoulders. "We need to call the police." "And tell them what?" "That a man made vague threats, that he grabbed my wrist without leaving a mark, that he knows my address, which anyone could find online. There has to be something. There's nothing." Megan's eyes burned. "That's the point. That's exactly the point. Men like him know how to stay just inside the lines. They know how to terrorize you without ever breaking a law." "Then what do we do?" Megan closed her eyes. Thought about Emma's face when Victor had stood over her. Thought about the way Jake had handled it. The certainty. The control. The absolute refusal to let a predator walk away without consequences. "I need to get home," Megan said. "I need to get that card." "What card?" "The biker. Emma's father. He gave me his number. Told me to call if that man ever came back." "You think he'll help?" "I don't know." Megan opened her eyes. "But I don't have anyone else." The rest of her shift passed in a blur of terror. Every time the door opened, her heart stopped. Every time she heard footsteps behind her, her body tensed for impact. Victor finished his coffee, left a $20 bill on the table, and walked out without another word. But Megan knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. At 10 o'clock, she clocked out, grabbed her bag, and walked outside into the night. The parking lot was empty. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting uneven shadows across the pavement. No motorcycles. No Jake. No one. She was alone. Megan walked toward the bus stop, keys clutched between her fingers, the way women are taught to hold them. Her eyes scanned every shadow. Her ears strained for footsteps. Nothing. Just the distant hum of traffic and the rapid beat of her own heart. She made it to the bus stop, sat down on the bench, waited. The bus came. She climbed on, found a seat near the driver, and watched the diner disappear through the window. 20 minutes later, she was home. She took the stairs 2 at a time, fumbled with her keys, and burst through the door of the apartment. Lily looked up from the couch, startled. "What's wrong?" Megan didn't answer. She went straight to the drawer beside the couch, yanked it open, and found the card exactly where she'd left it. "Megan, you're scaring me." "I'm fine. You're shaking." Megan stared at the number on the card. 10 digits. 10 digits that could mean the difference between safety and something far worse. "He came back," Megan said quietly. "The man from the diner. He came back." Lily stood up slowly. "The one who was watching that little girl." "Yeah." "What happened?" Megan told her. "Everything. The threats, the wrist grab, Fletcher Street, Unit 307. Lily." Her sister's face went white. "He knows where we live." "Yes." "He knows my name." "Yes." "Oh God," Lily's voice broke. "Oh God, Megan, what are we going to do?" "I'm going to call this number." "And then what? Some biker shows up and beats him up. That's not a solution. That's just more trouble." "He won't beat him up. He'll—" Megan stopped. She didn't actually know what Jake would do. She just knew that when she'd watched him confront Victor in the diner, she'd felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. "Just let me try," Megan said. "If he can't help, I'll call the police. I'll get a restraining order. I'll do whatever I have to do, but right now, tonight, I need to know that someone is on our side." Lily stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay." Megan dialed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring, Jake answered. "Talk to me." His voice was calm, steady, the voice of a man who'd seen things and survived them. "It's Megan," she said, "from the diner. The waitress who—" "I remember." A pause. "What's wrong?" "He came back." Silence on the other end. "He came back," Megan repeated, and now her voice was shaking. "He sat at the same table. He grabbed my wrist. He told me he knows where I live. He knows about my sister. He said he'd be watching, that I'd never know when or where, but he'd be there." Jake's breathing changed. Deeper. Harder. The sound of a man whose anger was building behind a carefully constructed wall. "Where are you now?" "Home. My apartment." "Address? Fletcher Street, Building C, Unit 307. "Lock your doors. Don't open them for anyone. I'll be there in 30 minutes. "Jake, 30 minutes, Megan, don't move." The line went dead. Megan stared at her phone. 30 minutes. 30 minutes of not knowing if Victor was outside. 30 minutes of wondering if she'd done the right thing by calling. 30 minutes of asking herself if she was dragging her sister into something worse. Lily grabbed her hand. "What did he say?" "He's coming." "Here." "Yes." Lily's grip tightened. "Is that good or bad?" "I don't know." Megan looked at her sister, 16 years old, too young to be this scared, too smart not to understand exactly how bad this could get. "But I know one thing." "What?" "I'm not going to let him hurt you. I'm not going to let him hurt either of us. Whatever it takes." Lily nodded slowly. "I believe you." They sat together on the couch, hands intertwined, and waited. 22 minutes later, Megan heard it. The low, unmistakable rumble of motorcycles. She went to the window and looked down at the street below. 4 bikes were pulling into the parking lot. 4 men in leather vests, engines cutting off one by one, bodies moving with the kind of coordinated precision that spoke of years of brotherhood. Jake was in front. He looked up, found her window, and nodded once. Megan's throat tightened. She'd called a stranger for help, and he'd brought an army. She went to the door, unlocked it, and waited. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, deliberate, unhurried. A knock. Megan opened the door. Jake stood in the hallway, 2 other men behind him. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the apartment, assessing threats, calculating responses. "You okay?" Megan shook her head. "No." Jake nodded, like that was the answer he'd expected. "Tell me everything," he said. "From the beginning. Don't leave anything out." So Megan told him. The diner, the coffee, the wrist grab, the threats. Fletcher Street, Lily, all of it, every word, every detail she could remember. When she finished, Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to one of the men behind him. "Rico, you stay here tonight. Front door stays locked. Anyone shows up who isn't us, you call me immediately." Rico nodded. No questions, no complaints, just acceptance. Jake turned back to Megan. "Does he know your work schedule?" "He said he does." "Then tomorrow you don't close alone. One of us will be in the parking lot from 8 o'clock until you're safe inside your apartment. You can't do that every night. Watch me." Megan's eyes burned. Why would you do this for someone you barely know?" Jake's expression softened just slightly. "Because you didn't look away. When my daughter needed someone to see what was happening, you saw it. You spoke up. You risked yourself to protect a child who wasn't yours." He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "That makes you one of us, Megan. And we don't leave family to face monsters alone." Megan felt something crack inside her chest, something she'd been holding together for years with sheer force of will. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Jake said. "This isn't over. Men like him, they don't stop because someone asks nicely. They stop when they understand the cost of continuing." "What does that mean?" Jake's jaw tightened. "It means we're going to make sure he understands." He turned and walked toward the door, stopped at the threshold. "Rico stays tonight. Tomorrow we talk about next steps. Get some sleep if you can." "Jake," he looked back. "What if he comes here tonight? What if he's already watching?" Jake's expression hardened into something that made Megan's blood run cold, not with fear, but with recognition. This was a man who'd faced worse than Victor Crane. This was a man who'd learned to be the thing that monsters feared. Then he'll learn what happens when you threaten the wrong family. Jake walked out. Rico closed the door behind him, locked it, and took a position by the window. Lily grabbed Megan's hand. "Are we safe?" Megan looked at Rico, solid, silent, steady as stone. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I think we are." But even as she said it, she knew the truth. Victor Crane wasn't going to give up. He was going to push. He was going to test. He was going to find out exactly how far he could go before someone stopped him. And when that moment came, Megan would have to decide how far she was willing to let others fight her battles, or whether it was time to start fighting back herself. 3 days passed without incident. Rico and the others took shifts outside the diner, outside the apartment on street corners Megan never would have noticed before. They were quiet, professional, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking. But Megan was looking. She saw them everywhere now, and every time she did, she felt something loosen in her chest. Victor didn't show. Not at the diner, not at the apartment, not on her bus route, or at the grocery store, or anywhere else she went. By the 4th day, Megan had almost convinced herself it was over, that the presence of Jake and his brothers had been enough, that Victor had gotten the message and moved on to easier prey. She was wrong. Thursday night, Megan was closing alone. The manager had called in sick 2nd time this month, and Dolores had left at 8. The last customer walked out at 9:30. By 9:45, the kitchen was dark. The register was locked, and Megan was grabbing her jacket from the hook by the door. She stepped outside. The parking lot was empty. No motorcycles. No Jake. No one. Megan's stomach dropped. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to Jake's number, and was about to dial when she heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Close. She spun around. Victor stepped out from between two parked cars, hands in his pockets, that same patient smile stretching across his face. "Miss me." Megan's heart slammed against her ribs. "Stay away from me." "Or what?" Victor moved closer. "You'll call your boyfriend, your biker friends. I've been watching Megan. I know their patterns. I know when they're here and when they're not. They'll find out. They'll what show up after. I'm already gone. File a police report that goes nowhere. Face it, sweetheart. You're alone." Megan's thumb found Jake's number. She pressed dial. Victor lunged. He grabbed her wrist, the same wrist he'd grabbed before, and yanked the phone out of her hand. It clattered across the pavement screen, cracking against concrete. "Told you." Victor hissed, his face inches from hers now. "I'd be around." "Let go of me." Victor shoved her backward. She stumbled, caught herself against a car, pain shooting through her shoulder where it connected with metal. "You think you can humiliate me and walk away?" Victor's voice rose, all pretense of control evaporating. "You think you can point fingers and whisper to bikers and face no consequences? I didn't do anything wrong. You ruined my life." Victor grabbed her jacket, pulled her close, then shoved her again. Harder this time. "People look at me different now. They whisper behind my back. They think I'm some kind of monster because of what you said." Megan's back hit the car again. Her shoulder screamed in protest. "I should have kept my mouth shut," Victor said, advancing on her. "I should have waited. Planned better. But you made me angry, Megan. You made me lose my temper. And now we're here, just the two of us, and you're going to learn what happens when you embarrass the wrong person." Megan's mind raced. The phone was 10 feet away, screen dark, probably dead. The diner was locked. The street was empty. No one was coming. She was alone. Victor reached for her again. Then she heard it. A motorcycle engine. Low rumbling getting closer. Victor's head snapped toward the sound. Jake Morgan came out of the darkness like something inevitable. He'd been there the whole time, parked in the shadow of the building next door, watching, waiting, giving Victor just enough rope to hang himself. Victor's face went white. Jake cut the engine, swung off the bike, and walked toward them. No rush, no panic, just calm, measured steps that covered the distance with terrifying efficiency. "You should have stayed away," Jake said. Victor released Megan and stumbled backward. "This isn't what it looks like. It looks like assault." She provoked me." "She provoked you." Jake's voice was flat, dangerous. "That's your defense. A woman half your size provoked you into putting your hands on her. You don't understand. I understand perfectly." Jake stopped 5 feet away from Victor. Close enough to strike. Close enough to make every word land like a blow. "You're a predator. You target women and children because they can't fight back. You use fear and intimidation because you're too weak to face anyone who might actually challenge you." Victor's face flushed red. "I'm not weak." "Prove it." "What? You like pushing women around?" "Try pushing me." Victor's eyes darted around the parking lot, looking for escape routes, looking for witnesses, looking for anything that might save him from what was about to happen. "I'm leaving," Victor said, backing away. "I'm walking out of here, and we're going to pretend this never happened." "No. No." Jake moved faster than Megan had ever seen anyone move. One moment he was standing still. The next he had Victor pinned against a car arm, twisted behind his back, face pressed against the hood. You threatened her, Jake said, voice cold as steel. You grabbed her. You followed her. You waited until she was alone, and you attacked her. I didn't attack. Jake twisted his arm harder. Victor screamed. You have one chance, Jake said. One chance to make this right. You're going to listen very carefully because I'm not going to repeat myself. Victor whimpered. Okay, I'm listening. You're going to turn yourself in. You're going to walk into the police station and confess to harassment, stalking, and assault. You're going to tell them everything you've done to Megan, to my daughter, to anyone else you've terrorized. I can't. You can. And you will. Because if you don't, I'm going to make sure everyone in this city knows exactly what you are. Your employer, your neighbors, your family. Everyone. Victor's breathing came in ragged gasps. You can't do that. I can do whatever I want. I'm a Hell's Angel. The police already think I'm a criminal. What's one more accusation? Jake leaned closer. But you have a reputation to protect. A job. A life. How long do you think any of that lasts once people find out you stalk 12-year-old girls? I wasn't. My daughter was terrified. She had nightmares for a week. She still asks me to check her room before she goes to sleep. Jake's voice cracked just slightly. You did that to her. You made my child afraid in her own home. Victor said nothing. Turn yourself in, Jake repeated. Tonight, or I will end your life as you know it. He released Victor and stepped back. Victor collapsed against the car, clutching his arm, gasping for breath. I could call the cops right now, Jake said. I could have you arrested on the spot, but I want you to make the choice. I want you to walk into that station and admit what you've done. I want you to face the consequences like a man instead of a coward. Victor looked up at him, eyes wild with fear and humiliation. And if I don't, Jake smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Megan had ever seen. Then I'll find you. Not tomorrow, not next week. Someday when you've almost forgotten. When you think you're safe, I'll be there, and we'll have this conversation again without the witnesses. Victor scrambled to his feet and ran. He didn't look back. Didn't say another word. Just sprinted across the parking lot, fumbled with his car keys, and peeled out of the lot so fast his tires left marks on the pavement. Megan stood frozen back against the car heart, pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Jake walked over and crouched to pick up her phone. The screen was shattered, but when he pressed the power button, it flickered to life. Still works, he said, handing it to her. Might want to get a case for it. Megan took the phone. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. You were here, she whispered. The whole time. I never left. But the parking lot was empty. I didn't see. You weren't supposed to. Jake's expression softened. I needed him to think you were alone. Needed him to show his true colors. You used me as bait. I protected you. There's a difference. I could have been hurt. You weren't. But I could have been. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You're right. And I'm sorry. But I needed proof. I needed him to do something I could use against him. Words aren't enough with men like that. They hide behind plausible deniability. They claim misunderstandings. But actions leave marks. Megan looked down at her wrist. The skin was red where Victor had grabbed her. By tomorrow it would be bruised. Evidence, she said quietly. Evidence, Jake confirmed. Now we have something real, something the police can't ignore. You think he'll actually turn himself in? Jake shook his head. No, men like him never do. But when he doesn't, we'll go to the police ourselves. We'll file a report, get a restraining order, build a case. And if that's not enough, Jake's jaw tightened. Then we handle it ourselves. What does that mean? It means I don't let people who hurt my family walk away unpunished. And you're family now, Megan, whether you want to be or not. Megan's throat burned. I didn't ask for this. Nobody asks for this. It just happens. And then you have a choice: face it alone, or let someone help you. He extended his hand. Megan stared at it for a long moment, thought about all the years she'd spent handling everything herself, thought about Lily, thought about the weight she'd been carrying since she was 20 years old. She took his hand. Jake pulled her to her feet, steady and sure. Come on, he said. Let's get you home. He walked her to his bike, handed her a helmet, and waited while she climbed on behind him. The ride was quiet. The wind whipped past them, carrying away the terror of the last hour, replacing it with something calmer, something that felt almost like peace. When they pulled up outside her building, Lily was waiting on the steps. She ran to Megan the moment the bike stopped, throwing her arms around her sister and holding on like she might disappear. Rico called me, Lily said, voice muffled against Megan's shoulder. He said something happened. Are you okay? I'm okay. You're shaking. I know, but I'm okay. Lily pulled back, looked at Jake. Did you stop him? Jake nodded. Is it over? Jake hesitated. That hesitation told Megan everything she needed to know. Not yet, he said finally. But it will be. Lily's expression hardened. 16 years old, but in that moment she looked older, wiser, like someone who'd learned that the world wasn't fair and had decided to fight back anyway. What do we do now? Lily asked. Now we wait, Jake said. We see if he turns himself in. If he doesn't, we go to the police tomorrow morning, file a formal complaint, get everything on record. And then we make sure he never hurts anyone again. Lily nodded slowly. Okay. Jake looked at Megan. You going to be all right tonight? Rico's still here. He's upstairs, hasn't moved since I left. Then yeah, we'll be all right. Jake climbed back on his bike, but didn't start the engine yet. Megan, yeah, you did good tonight. You stayed calm. You didn't panic. Most people would have fallen apart. I wanted to fall apart. But you didn't. That's what matters. He started the engine, the rumble filling the quiet street. Get some sleep if you can. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He rode off into the darkness, taillights fading until they disappeared completely. Megan stood there for a moment, Lily's hand in hers, staring at the empty street. He's not going to turn himself in, Lily said quietly. Is he? No, Megan admitted. He's not. Then what happens? Megan thought about Jake's promise, about the club, about the way they'd shown up without being asked, stood guard without being paid, protected her without expecting anything in return. I don't know, she said, but I know we're not alone. They went inside. Rico was exactly where Jake had said, by the window eyes on the street, steady as a rock. Everything okay? He asked. For now, Megan said. Good, get some rest. I'll be here. Megan and Lily sat on the couch together, neither willing to go to their separate rooms. They didn't talk much, just sat there, shoulders touching, drawing comfort from each other's presence. At some point, Megan's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. Her blood went cold. This isn't over. You think your biker friends can protect you forever. They can't. No one can. I'll be seeing you soon, Megan. Real soon. Megan's hands trembled as she read the message again. What is it? Lily asked, leaning over to look. Megan turned the phone away. Nothing. Megan, it's nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Victor wasn't going to the police. He wasn't backing down. He was escalating. And somewhere out there in the darkness he was watching, waiting, planning his next move. Megan deleted the message and put the phone face down on the couch. Tomorrow she would tell Jake. Tomorrow they would go to the police. Tomorrow they would figure out what to do next. But tonight, she just wanted to pretend for a few more hours that everything was going to be okay. Even though she knew it wasn't. Even though she knew the worst was yet to come. Megan showed Jake the text message at 7 the next morning. He read it twice, jaw tightening with each word, then handed the phone back without comment. "We need to go to the police," Megan said. "Now." Agreed. They went together. Jake drove Megan in the passenger seat of his truck, Lily in the back, refusing to be left behind. The police station was a squat brick building on the east side of town, the kind of place that looked like it had seen better decades. Officer Patricia Reyes took their statement. She was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened without interrupting as Megan recounted everything: the diner, the threats, the parking lot, assault, the text message. When Megan finished, Officer Reyes leaned back in her chair. "Do you have any physical evidence of the assault?" Megan rolled up her sleeve. The bruises on her wrist had darkened overnight, purple-black fingerprints that stood out against her skin like accusations. Officer Reyes took photos. "And the text message?" Megan handed over her phone. Reyes scrolled through the conversation, made notes, handed it back. "Here's the problem," Reyes said carefully. "Everything you've described is serious, but it's also difficult to prosecute. The text message was sent from an unknown number, probably a burner phone. The assault happened without witnesses." "I was there," Jake said. "You're a Hell's Angel." And defense attorneys love discrediting witnesses with criminal associations. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's reality. Megan's stomach dropped. "So you're not going to do anything?" "I didn't say that." Reyes pulled out a form. "We're going to file a formal complaint. We're going to issue a warning to Mr. Crane. A warning. It's the first step. We need to establish a pattern of behavior before we can pursue charges. He's been stalking me for weeks. I understand your frustration. Do you?" Megan's voice cracked. "Do you understand what it's like to be afraid every time you walk out your door to check the parking lot before you leave work? To wonder if today's the day he finally does something worse than grabbing your wrist?" Reyes was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I've been doing this job for 22 years. I've seen cases like yours more times than I can count. And I know that the system doesn't move fast enough. But it does move. And right now the best thing I can do is start building a case. How long will that take? Depends on how he responds to the warning. If he backs off, maybe never. If he escalates, he's already escalating. Then we'll have more to work with." Megan wanted to scream, wanted to flip the desk, wanted to do something other than sit there feeling helpless while a bureaucrat explained why her terror wasn't urgent enough. Jake put a hand on her arm. Steady. Grounding. "File the complaint," he said to Reyes. "Issue the warning. Do whatever you need to do on your end. And on your end," Jake met her eyes, "we'll handle protection ourselves." Reyes studied him for a long moment. "I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Probably wise?" They left the station with a case number and a promise that someone would contact Victor Crane within 48 hours. It felt like nothing. It felt like less than nothing. In the truck, Lily spoke for the first time since they'd arrived. "That's it. That's all they can do." "For now," Jake said. "That's insane. That's the system." Megan stared out the window, watching the streets blur past. "What do we do now?" Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, we wait for him to make his next move. And if his next move is worse than a text message, then we respond accordingly. What does that mean? Jake glanced at her. His expression was calm, but there was something underneath it. Something hard and certain. It means we don't let him win. 2 days passed. Victor didn't respond to the police warning. Didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't show up at the diner or the apartment or anywhere else Megan went. The silence was worse than the threats. Megan jumped at every sound, checked her phone obsessively, lay awake at night listening for footsteps that never came. The waiting was its own kind of torture, a slow erosion of sanity that left her exhausted and hollow. On the 3rd day, Jake called. "Meet me at the clubhouse. There's something you need to see." Megan arrived an hour later, Lily in tow despite Megan's protests. The clubhouse was a converted warehouse on the edge of town, surrounded by motorcycles and men who looked like they'd been forged in fire. Jake met them at the door. "What is it?" Megan asked. "What did you find?" Jake led them inside past a common room filled with pool tables and worn leather couches into a small office at the back. A man Megan didn't recognize was sitting at a computer, scrolling through what looked like hundreds of pages of documents. "This is Rabbit," Jake said. "He handles our research." Rabbit looked up. He was younger than the others, early 30s maybe, with glasses and a nervous energy that seemed out of place among the leather and tattoos. "I dug into Victor Crane," Rabbit said. "Took a while, but I found something." He turned the monitor toward Megan. She leaned in, scanning the screen. Court records, police reports, news articles, all centered around the same name. Victor Crane. "He's done this before," Rabbit said. 3 times that I could find. Different states, different victims. Same pattern. Megan's blood went cold. "What? First one was 8 years ago. Woman in Texas claimed he was stalking her. Case got dropped when she refused to testify." "Why did she refuse? No idea, but I can guess." Megan could guess, too. Second one was 5 years ago. Arizona. Teenage girl said he followed her home from school multiple times. Her parents filed a complaint, but there wasn't enough evidence to press charges. "And the third," Rabbit's expression darkened. 2 years ago, Missouri. Woman named Sarah Mitchell. She filed 3 separate complaints against him. Stalking, harassment, intimidation. "What happened?" Rabbit hesitated. "She disappeared." The word hung in the air like a gunshot. "Disappeared?" Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "Never found. Police investigated, but they couldn't prove anything. Victor was questioned, denied everything, and they had to let him go." Megan felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "He killed her." "They couldn't prove it," Rabbit repeated. "But yeah, that's what I think too." Jake stepped forward. "This is who we're dealing with. Not just a stalker, a predator with a history of escalating violence. Why isn't he in prison? Because the system failed. Every single time the system failed." Jake's voice was hard. "But we're not the system." Megan looked at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we have 2 choices. We can wait for the police to build a case that might take months, years while Victor gets more dangerous, or we can handle this ourselves." "Handle it how?" Jake didn't answer immediately. He glanced at Rabbit, at Lily, then back at Megan. "There's a third option," he said finally. "One that doesn't involve waiting." "What?" "We draw him out, force him to make a move he can't take back, something the police can't ignore." "You want to use me as bait again?" "No." Jake shook his head. "I want to use me as bait." Megan blinked. "What? Victor's obsessed with you, but I'm the one who humiliated him. I'm the one who put my hands on him. If anyone can push him over the edge, it's me." "That's insane." It's strategic. It's a death wish. It's the only way to end this. Jake's voice softened. Megan, I've been doing this a long time. I know how men like Victor think. They can't handle being challenged. They can't handle losing. If I push him hard enough, he'll snap. And when he does, we'll have everything we need. Lily stepped forward. And what if he snaps on you? What if he has a gun, a knife? What if... Then I'll handle it. You can't guarantee that. No, Jake admitted. I can't. But I can guarantee that if we do nothing, he'll keep escalating until someone gets hurt. Maybe Megan. Maybe you. Maybe someone we haven't even met yet. I'm not willing to let that happen. The room went quiet. Megan looked at Jake, this man who'd walked into her life, because she'd warned him about a stranger watching his daughter. This man who'd shown up every time she needed him. This man who was now offering to put himself in danger to protect her. Why? She asked. Why would you risk your life for someone you barely know? Jake's expression shifted. For a moment, the hard exterior cracked, and Megan saw something underneath. Something raw and painful and deeply human. Because someone did it for me once, he said quietly. A long time ago, when I was in a bad place, someone stood up for me when they didn't have to. It changed everything. It gave me a second chance. He looked at her directly. You gave my daughter that same chance. You saw something wrong, and you spoke up. You didn't know us. You didn't owe us anything. But you did it anyway. His voice hardened again. Now it's my turn. Megan's throat burned. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him it was too dangerous, too risky, too much. But she also knew he was right. Waiting wasn't working. The police weren't working. Something had to change. Okay, she said finally. What's the plan? Jake smiled. It was grim, determined, utterly without humor. We're going to give Victor exactly what he wants, a chance to prove he's not a coward. The next evening, Jake rode alone to Victor's apartment. He parked his motorcycle in the lot, walked up to the front door, and knocked 3 times. Hard. Deliberate. Victor opened the door. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Victor's face cycled through surprise, fear, and finally a simmering rage that made his eyes go flat and cold. What the hell are you doing here? We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. Jake stepped closer. Victor flinched, but didn't retreat. I know who you are, Jake said. I know what you've done. Texas, Arizona, Missouri. Sarah Mitchell. Victor's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. And so do the police. I sent them everything. The records, the pattern, the connection to Sarah's disappearance. Victor's hands clenched into fists. You can't prove anything. Maybe not, but I can make your life very uncomfortable while they try. I can make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of man you are, your employer, your neighbors, your landlord, everyone. That's harassment. That's justice. Victor's jaw tightened. You think you're better than me? You're a criminal, a thug. You've probably done worse things than I have. Maybe, Jake admitted. But I've never hurt a woman. I've never stalked a child. I've never made someone disappear. I didn't. Sarah Mitchell. Tell me what happened to her. I don't know. You're lying. Victor's composure shattered. Get out. Get out of my building before I call the police. Call them, Jake said calmly. Tell them a Hell's Angel came to your door and asked about a missing woman. See how that plays. Victor stood frozen, trembling with rage, unable to think of a response. Jake leaned in closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this town. Tonight. You're going to pack your things, get in your car, and drive until you're in a different state. And you're never going to come back. You can't make me. I'm not making you do anything. I'm giving you a choice. Leave quietly or stay and face the consequences. What consequences? Jake smiled. Cold. Final. The kind that don't leave witnesses. Victor's face went white. You're threatening me. I'm promising you. There's a difference. For a long moment, neither man moved. Then Victor's shoulders slumped. The rage drained out of him, replaced by something smaller, something defeated. Fine, he whispered. I'll go. Tonight. Tonight. Jake stepped back. If I ever hear your name again, if you ever contact Megan, her sister, anyone connected to this, I will find you. And our next conversation will be much shorter. He turned and walked away. Victor watched him go, eyes burning with hatred, hands shaking at his sides. Jake climbed on his motorcycle, started the engine, and rode off into the night. He didn't see Victor pull out his phone. He didn't see Victor dial 911. He didn't hear Victor's voice, calm now, calculated, say the words that would change everything. I'd like to report a threat. A man just came to my home and threatened to kill me. His name is Jake Morgan. He's a member of the Hells Angels. The trap was set, and Jake had just walked right into it. The police arrested Jake at 9:30 that night. Megan got the call from Rico 15 minutes later. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone to her ear. They took him in, Rico said. Victor filed a complaint. Said Jake threatened to kill him. That's not what happened. Doesn't matter what happened. Matters what Victor says happened. And right now he's got a police report that says a Hells Angel showed up at his door and made death threats. Megan's legs gave out. She sank onto the couch, head spinning, stomach churning. What do? We get him a lawyer. We post bail. We fight this. How long will that take? Rico hesitated. Could be morning before the arraignment. Maybe longer. He's going to spend the night in jail because of me. He's going to spend the night in jail because Victor Crane is a manipulative piece of garbage who knows how to play the system. This isn't your fault, Megan. But it felt like her fault. It felt like everything was her fault. Lily appeared in the doorway, face pale. What's wrong? Megan told her. Watched her sister's expression shift from confusion to horror to something that looked dangerously close to rage. That's insane, Lily said. Jake was trying to help us. I know. Victor's the criminal. He's the one who should be in jail. I know. This isn't fair. I know. Megan's voice cracked. I know it's not fair. Nothing about this has been fair. But fair doesn't matter right now. What matters is getting Jake out. She stood up, grabbed her jacket, and headed for the door. Where are you going? Lily demanded. The police station. Megan. I'm not letting him sit in a cell because he tried to protect me. I'm not letting Victor win. Lily grabbed her own jacket. Then I'm coming with you. They arrived at the station just before 11. Officer Reyes was still on duty, and when she saw Megan walk through the door, something flickered across her face. Recognition. Maybe even sympathy. I heard what happened, Reyes said. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't help him. No, it doesn't. Reyes lowered her voice. Look, I know this situation is complicated. I know Jake Morgan was trying to protect you. But he went to Victor's home. He made statements that could be interpreted as threats. Victor's been stalking me for weeks. I know, and I believe you. But believing you and proving it in court are two different things. Megan's eyes burned. So what do I do? Reyes studied her for a long moment. Then she said, There's a woman here. Showed up about an hour ago asking to speak to whoever was handling the Victor Crane case. Who? Says her name is Sarah Mitchell's mother. Megan's heart stopped. Sarah Mitchell. The woman who disappeared. The same. Reyes glanced around, lowered her voice further. She drove all the way from Missouri when she heard Victor's name come up in a police report. Said she's been waiting 2 years for someone to take her daughter's case seriously. Where is she? Interview room B. She's been talking to our detective for the past 40 minutes. Megan's mind raced. Sarah Mitchell's mother. Here. Now. With information that could change everything. Can I see her? That's not really. Please. Megan grabbed Reyes's arm. Officer Reyes, please. Jake is in a cell right now because he tried to stop the same man who made your witness's daughter disappear. If there's any chance she knows something that could help. Reyes hesitated. Her jaw tightened. For a moment, Megan thought she was going to say no. Then she nodded. 5 minutes. That's all I can give you. She led Megan down a hallway to a door marked Interview Room B. Through the small window, Megan could see a woman in her 60s sitting at a table, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. Reyes opened the door. The woman looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted, but there was a sharpness in them that spoke of years spent fighting a battle no one else believed in. Mrs. Mitchell, Reyes said. This is Megan Torres. She's been dealing with Victor Crane as well. The woman studied Megan for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Sit down, dear. Megan sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Mrs. Mitchell said, You're the waitress, aren't you? The one who warned that biker about Victor watching his daughter. How did you know? Word travels, especially when it involves Victor. Mrs. Mitchell's voice was steady, but there was pain underneath every word. I've been tracking him for 2 years, ever since my Sarah disappeared. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Mrs. Mitchell leaned forward. Victor Crane is a predator. He doesn't just stalk women, he destroys them. He picks them apart piece by piece until there's nothing left. And then he moves on to the next one. What happened to Sarah? Mrs. Mitchell's eyes went distant. She met him at a coffee shop. He seemed charming at first, attentive, interested in everything she said. But then the attention turned into obsession. He started showing up everywhere she went. Her work, her gym, her apartment. She filed 3 complaints, but the police said there wasn't enough evidence. Just like now. Just like now. Mrs. Mitchell's voice hardened. And then one day she was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just vanished. The police investigated, but Victor had an alibi. Some friend who swore he was at a poker game all night. You don't believe it. I know it's a lie. I know Victor did something to my daughter. I just can't prove it. Megan's throat tightened. Mrs. Mitchell, there's a man in a cell right now because he tried to stop Victor from doing to me what he did to Sarah. If there's anything you know that could help. Mrs. Mitchell reached across the table and took Megan's hand. I came here tonight because I heard Victor's name in a police report for the first time in 2 years. I came here because I thought maybe finally someone would listen. She squeezed Megan's hand. And I brought something with me, something I've been holding on to since Sarah disappeared. What? Mrs. Mitchell reached into her purse and pulled out a small flash drive. Sarah was smart. Smarter than Victor ever gave her credit for. She knew something was wrong. She knew he was dangerous. So she started documenting everything. Photos, recordings, text messages, everything he ever did, she kept a record. Megan stared at the flash drive. Why didn't you give this to the police before? I tried. They said it wasn't enough. Said recordings made without consent weren't admissible. Said photos could be faked. They had 100 reasons why they couldn't use it. But now there's a pattern. 3 states, multiple victims, a man in jail for trying to stop him. Mrs. Mitchell pressed the flash drive into Megan's palm. Maybe this time it'll be enough. The door opened. Officer Reyes stepped in. Megan, I need you to come with me. What's wrong? Victor Crane just withdrew his complaint. Megan's heart lurched. What? He called 5 minutes ago. Said he overreacted. Said he doesn't want to press charges. Why would he do that? Reyes's expression was grim. Because our detective just informed him that we're reopening the Sarah Mitchell case. Told him we have new evidence and new witnesses. Mrs. Mitchell stood up slowly. You're reopening it. Ma'am, I can't make any promises, but yes, we're reopening it. For the first time, something like hope flickered across Mrs. Mitchell's face. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Reyes turned to Megan. Jake Morgan is being released. No charges. He should be out within the hour. Megan felt her knees go weak. He's free. He's free. And Victor Crane is about to have a very long conversation with our detective about some inconsistencies in his alibi from 2 years ago. Megan's eyes blurred with tears. She looked at Mrs. Mitchell at the flash drive, still clutched in her hand, at Officer Reyes standing in the doorway. It's really over? Not yet, Reyes said, but it's starting to be. Jake walked out of the police station at 1 a.m. Megan was waiting on the steps, Lily beside her Rico, and 3 other brothers behind them. When Jake saw them, he stopped. Just stood there for a moment, taking in the sight of all these people who'd shown up for him, who'd refused to let him face this alone. Megan ran to him. She threw her arms around his neck and held on like she might never let go. I'm sorry, she said into his shoulder. I'm so sorry. For what? For getting you arrested. For dragging you into this. For Megan. Jake pulled back, looked her in the eyes. You didn't drag me into anything. I chose this. I chose to help you. And I'd do it again. Why? Because that's what family does. The word hit Megan like a physical blow. Family. She'd spent so long believing that family was just her and Lily, that they were alone in the world, that no one else would ever stand up for them. But here was Jake. Here was Rico. Here were men she'd barely known a month ago standing in the cold at 1 a.m. because one of their own had needed them. Victor withdrew his complaint, Megan said. They're reopening the Sarah Mitchell case. Jake's eyes widened. How? Her mother came forward. She had evidence. Recordings, photos, everything Sarah documented before she disappeared. Jake shook his head. That's incredible. It's not over yet, but it's close. Megan took a breath. Jake, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done. Then don't. Jake smiled a real smile, the first one she'd ever seen from him. Just keep showing up. That's all I ask. I will. I know. 3 weeks later, Victor Crane was arrested. The evidence from Sarah's flash drive, combined with Megan's testimony and the documented pattern across 3 states, was enough to charge him with stalking, harassment, and conspiracy in connection with Sarah Mitchell's disappearance. He was denied bail. Megan got the news from Officer Reyes, who called her personally to share it. It's going to be a long trial, Reyes said. But we've got him. He's not getting out of this one. What about Sarah? Did they find her? Reyes was quiet for a moment. Not yet, but we're looking. And Victor knows we're looking. Maybe that'll be enough to make him talk. It wasn't justice. Not yet. But it was a start. 6 months later, Megan stood in the clubhouse watching Jake hand Emma a birthday cake. The girl was 13 now, taller than she'd been that day in the diner, more confident. She'd started taking self-defense classes. She'd joined her school's debate team. She'd stopped asking her father to check her room before bed. She was healing. They all were. Megan had started working for the club 3 months ago. Not as a waitress, as an operations manager. She handled the books, managed schedules, kept the legitimate businesses running smooth. The pay was more than she'd ever made in her life. The hours let her be home when Lily finished school. And the family, the real family, was bigger than she'd ever imagined. "Speech," Rico called out, raising a beer. Jake rolled his eyes but stepped forward. "I'm not big on speeches," he said, "but I want to say something." The room went quiet. A year ago, a stranger did something most people wouldn't do. She saw my daughter in danger and she spoke up. She didn't know us. She didn't owe us anything, but she did it anyway. His eyes found Megan across the room. Megan Torres saved my daughter that day, and in doing so she became family. Not because I decided it, not because she asked for it, but because that's what happens when you show up for people who need you. He raised his glass. To Megan, and to everyone here who shows up every day, every time, no matter what. That's what makes us family. Not blood, not patches, just the choice to stand together. To Megan, the room echoed. Megan felt tears streaming down her face, but she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall, let herself feel the weight of everything that had happened, everything that had changed. Lily appeared at her side, slipping a hand into hers. "You okay?" Megan looked at her sister, 17 now, thriving in school, talking about college applications for the first time ever. Looked at Jake and Emma laughing over birthday candles. Looked at Rico and Marcus and Big Dave and all the others who'd become as familiar as her own heartbeat. "Yeah," Megan said. "I really am." After the party, Megan found herself alone with Jake in the parking lot. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. For that night in the diner. For every night since." Jake shook his head. "You're still thanking me. I thought we talked about this." "I know, but I mean it. You changed my life. You changed mine first." Jake looked at her directly. "Megan, the day you warned me about Victor, that wasn't just about Emma. That was about me too. I'd been so focused on the club, on the business, on keeping everyone else safe, that I'd stopped paying attention to what mattered most. Your daughter. My daughter. My family. The things that actually matter." He took a breath. "You reminded me of that, and I'll never forget it." Megan didn't know what to say, didn't know if there were words for the kind of gratitude that filled her chest. So she just nodded. Jake smiled. "Come on, let's go back inside. There's still cake left." They walked back toward the clubhouse together. At the door, Megan stopped and looked back at the parking lot, at the motorcycles lined up in neat rows, at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky, at the life she'd built from the ashes of everything she thought she'd lost. She thought about the girl she'd been a year ago, scared, alone, convinced that asking for help meant admitting defeat. She wasn't that girl anymore. She was stronger now, braver, surrounded by people who'd taught her that family wasn't something you were born into, it was something you chose. And sometimes it chose you back. Megan walked into the clubhouse, closed the door behind her, and let herself believe for the first time in her life that she was exactly where she belonged. Because home wasn't a place. It was the people who showed up when you needed them most. And Megan Torres had finally found hers.